Sanding bevels is not something I enjoy, but it needed to be done. And I like bevels, so I'm going to have to learn to love sanding bevels, aren't I? The body's finished. I've fine sanded it and I've put it somewhere over that way on some foam so it doesn't get scratched. I'm probably still going to scratch it at some point and have to resand bits of it, but for now it's staying out of the way. You will see it at some point. There might be pictures up here somewhere around me, or I might just turn the camera that way and you'll be able to see it in the corner of whatever I'm doing next. Because what I'm doing next is finishing carving the neck. I didn't want to do anything with the heel until I'd got the body finished, because I needed to get the neck pocket cut and figure out exactly where my body join was going to be. I did manage to say join properly there. So that I could get the transition to blend straight in right up against where we hit the body. I've done that now. And as you can see on here, I've got a pencil line marked for the heel, which isn't going to be very big, it's just going to kind of stick out a little bit. But I need to carve this. The other day, somebody at work came in and said to me that Axminster Tools had a really good Easter deal on a pattern maker's vise. And I use a pattern maker's vise to hold necks and things whilst I'm carving them in my day job. Every single day. They're really useful. So I've got a kind of corner workbench with a half-sized sort of version of this sticking out in an L shape, and on that I've got my pattern maker's vise. On here I've got lots of soft padding for sanding things. I'm constantly using it for all sorts of things, so I wanted one. And the other day it turned up. But I couldn't figure out anywhere on here to put it, because if I put it on this workbench, I don't have anywhere to do all my big things. And if you've seen any of my videos, then you'll know I like to spread out. I've always got chaos happening everywhere, and I like to be able to lay out a full guitar. Which I couldn't do if I had a big vise stuck in the middle of here. I can't put it on the edges because there's a big washer that goes underneath to clamp it all in place, and it's just a faff. So I cleared up a bit of space on my other workbench space that I've got over here, and you can probably see just in the corner of the screen there's this thing. That's the pattern maker's vise. So what I'm going to do now is turn the camera to the side and give you a quick tour of it. Excuse the mess in the background, that's all my CNC stuff. So you may well have seen these used in the past. StewMac do a bright red version, which is what I've got at work. They call it various things, kind of luthier's vise and all sorts of stuff, but it is a pattern maker's vise. It's got soft jaws with rubber faces on the wooden soft jaws. These are replaceable. The whole thing opens up a good distance and it twists 360 degrees. There's a big wing nut underneath here which will tighten it up and lock it in place for me, and you can clamp all kinds of things in here. It's really handy for clamping necks whilst you're carving them, or clamping bodies whilst you're sanding the sides, and drilling things like strap button holes or jack socket holes. If you don't have one, I am in no way endorsed by anyone who makes or sells these, but they are a fantastic tool, and as I record this, Axminster have got about 60 quid off, which is a really good deal. By the time I edit and publish this video, they probably won't have, but keep an eye out, and you can usually pick them up for about 150, 160 pounds, and they are absolutely fantastic. Also, there's a base body there. So what I'm going to do now is get the neck. I'm going to get it set up in here, and then I'm gonna set up the camera so you can see what I'm doing, and I'm just gonna start carving, and then I'm gonna keep carving until I don't need to carve anymore. I think I'm going to use a combination of probably a gouge and some rasps and files, and then probably some sandpaper. And hopefully by the time I'm done, it'll look good and it'll be ready for final sanding. Time has come to make this thing guitar shaped. Now, everything is sanded. I spared you the sanding montage because it's not that exciting. It was a long process. Sanding bevels is not something I enjoy, but it needed to be done. And I like bevels, so I'm going to have to learn to love sanding bevels, aren't I? I've got the neck up to 320, same with the body, and then I've broken all the edges, the hard sharp edges, with 400, so that when it's sprayed we won't get any kind of thin rub through areas. I've also masked up the edges of the joint so that any glue squeeze out doesn't cause me issues. And I've scored the sides of the neck tenon just to give the glue something extra to key to. That's not strictly necessary, but I like to do it. Something that is quite handy to have when gluing up is a simple plastic drinking straw. A little trick that I learned a while ago is if you trim the end of the straw at an angle, preferably with the right tools, which that isn't. Neither is this, but it might work. That's not the right tool either. Where is the right tool? I had the right tool. I'm going to use a razor blade. That's not the right tool, but it will work. You get a nice little point, which when you've got glue squeeze out in corners, it can be a bit of a nightmare to get to, whereas the point on this straw will scrape right into the corner, which you can't see at that angle. So I'm going to zoom in and do it on this side so you can see it. And because it's hollow, the glue will just run up into the straw rather than smearing or being impossible to get rid of. Quite a handy trick to know. So what I'm going to do is get a couple of clamps. I'm going to dry fit it, make sure that everything goes in place as I want it to, and then I'm going to get some glue in there, spread it all out, get everything clamped in place, all the squeeze out cleaned up, and then let it sit for a weekend. Also, when you're done, remember to dispose of the straw responsibly. Paper straws do also work for this, but they get soft a lot quicker, so you have to trim them down. I'm only using the plastic ones because I have a load that have been in one of my drawers in the kitchen for about 9 years. I really need to get through them. Marvellous.